Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're viewing from. This is Laura Thompson, your friendly, fabulous, feisty, fierce, and phenomenal CEO and creator of TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with a global reach. And you're tuned into the coffee break. And I have the distinct privilege and pleasure of introducing to you and interviewing the former mayor of Prairie View, Texas, and now a city councilman and Mayor Pro Tem, so he just never stops. And I just happened to catch him in town today, and so I asked him to come over to talk a little bit about some of the projects that he's done in the past, some that he's doing now, and some future projects. So thank you for stopping by, Mayor Pro Tem, former Mayor David Allen. So before we get started with the interview, I would like to get you to tell us a little biographical information about you, like where you're from, what you do, why you do it, and all those good things.
Okay. Well, again, it's just a pleasure to be here. Been so impressed with what you've done with TAN from starting to inception to now. So it's a pleasure. I think the last time I was here was your 300th anniversary with the city of San Antonio, and
Yes.
just honored to be a part of it. But my name is David Allen, military brat, mother from Panama, father was in the Army, met her there, and then we came to matriculated to the United States through Fort Belvoir, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and then we wound up Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio, Texas. Lived over on the east side in Carson Homes, and
Really?
just loved that right off Walter Street and the back gate to Fort Sam Houston. But then went through Emerson Middle School and Fox Tech High School. We were going into Wheatley the year they cut it off in 1970, so we
Really?
transitioned over to Fox Tech.
Wow.
And from there, wound up going to Prairie View. My middle school teacher, God rest her soul, Miss Faye Bess, she's the first one that mentioned Prairie View to me. And I had no one in my family who'd gone to a four-year university at that time.
Wow.
So she mentioned college would be the best years of your life if you go to the right school and you apply yourself. So I said, well, I didn't have a college, so let me try hers. I had an opportunity for a scholarship to UT in Austin, went down there, and I think they had 36,000 students. They said they had 400 blacks, and again, how my 16-year-old mind, you go to the library, you see some people, and then maybe you go to the dining hall and you saw somebody else in the same, top or clothes, and I'm just thinking, they don't have 400 blacks here. I keep seeing the same ones.
I know, right?
I knew nothing about how that worked with college, but just wound up going to Prairie View A&M, and one of the best decisions in my life.
And it's ironic that you became the mayor of Prairie View, and we're still able to help at the college. And
Yes.
so I know that you've done a lot of extraordinary things in Prairie View, things that haven't been done before,
Yeah.
by any of your predecessors. And so I've just really been impressed with some of the projects that you've worked on, specifically the cricket stadium. Can you tell
Yes.
us a little bit about that and how that
Sure.
came about?
The city of Prairie View now has the largest cricket sports complex in the entire United States. Now, why is that important? Cricket is the second largest sport in the world,
Wow.
only behind soccer.
Wow.
So it's huge around the world, and more in the United States. So we were honored to met a gentleman and just convinced him that he wasn't going to find a better place than Prairie View for such a thing. And he had been looking at it. He finalized the deal and worked with him on getting the paperwork done and all that good stuff that needed to happen with the with city permits and those sort of things. And they've been having some incredibly wonderful competitions there, and they say they're like connected to Houston, but then they'll say Prairie View, Texas. It's the Prairie View Sports Complex, Prairie View Cricket Complex. That's all I care about.
Wow, that's crazy. So when you first told me about the cricket complex, the whole time I'm thinking cricket, the company,
Right.
it was a sponsor or something. and it was just called the Cricket Stadium that they had name recognition, and then you soon corrected me on that. I was like, oh my God, I've never really heard of the
Hmm.
sport cricket. But so, do y'all have any other activities in there besides the cricket games? Or
Well, on that particular field, no, because they're set up with several fields right there, which whenever they have competitions, even international competitions now, Prairie View is included. So we're excited about that. What he's doing is he had put the first cricket fields far enough away from Highway 290 to allow for building hotels, restaurants, retail, stuff like that right along the freeway. So that's still forthcoming. I had, when I was mayor, a couple of Zoom calls and meetings with TxDOT, and we discussed, I wanted access service roads from James Muse Parkway all the way to Leendo Parkway, which is where the cricket field ends, on that side, because we've just got so much development that's been taking place. We've increased, during that tenure as mayor, we brought in Panther Hill student housing, which was 1,400 bedrooms
wow,
for students. So it was like an instant fix in helping with our situation with growth and housing that we didn't have for students. And then Fountain Hill is a family type place that is full, and local business people who work at some of the manufacturing, Daikin, which is the largest Japanese HVAC company in the world. They're in Waller just before you get to Prairie View, but many of their people and families live there. And then we brought in the Gates student housing. They're at just under 300 now, but they're about to go to somewhere around 900 and expanding literally in my backyard. But then it took a minute going back and forth with TxDOT, because we had some people who wanted to buy one of our corners at University Drive and 290, where a couple of homes were, and the people were willing to sell. But when they first came to me with the realtors, buyers, sellers, they said the state had told them, TxDOT, that they couldn't do it because it was a freeway entry ramp. And so it took a few meetings, but I kindly just pointed out to TxDOT, who built it that way? Did the city build it, the university? Who built it? I said, well, we do. I said, so we're being harmed and punished for our economic development on one of the best corners in our city because of how you built this, or your predecessors, who, if any of them are there, they should be fired. But so it took about 14 months, but we got it signed off in Austin, and now we've got a huge Shell gas convenience station on that corner, along with a Checkers restaurant next to it. Now we're about to open up a Starbucks across the street from them.
wow,
And right across the highway, we've got the Prairie View Livable Center study that we just finished with the Houston Galveston Area Council maybe a couple of months ago. Matter of fact, I found out recently that we won an award from the American Planning Association. And their conference is in Allen, Texas, sometime late next month, mid next month. And we're supposed to get the silver award, which I'm assuming, gold, silver, so maybe we're second place, little old Prairie View.
wow. So they were that freeway that went through there was they were trying to, well, they probably didn't even think about it, I hope, but they were affecting the economic development and the revenue that was coming into Prairie View, right?
Absolutely, the way it was built, even the fact that it goes under, way under. So by the time you're at University Drive, you can't see the university because you're so down under. But then when we get heavy rain, it often floods.
Wow.
So, yeah, but
So-
again, the state built that. My thought is fix what you built.
Wow. So it takes a lot of insight, and vision to really fight that, or even to know how to fight it, because most people probably would have left it the way it was and just accepted it.
Yes, having run the NAACP in Los Angeles and a civil rights law firm helped a little bit. You know, you
Wow.
can point out economic discrimination, and then they're wondering what the hell you're talking about.
Right. So, what's the population in Prairie View?
Totally, I'd say on the census it lists us at a little over 8,000.
Really?
But you know, you got a
Wow.
nice amount of that. We're a college town. You know, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of our people over time have passed on, and the kids had already moved, you know, to a big city, jobs, stuff like that. So we've got a lot of student population in, and they're counted because that's where they live the majority of the year. So
Wow. So, because of your economic development and all of the things that you all are building, what is your expansion plan, or how do you envision increasing population?
well, we just signed off a week ago Monday on, no, this past Monday, on a development agreement with the developer that's going to build over 500 houses on the backside, the north side of the university. So that's going to be a game changer. About 6 weeks ago, we broke ground, and it was in the news,
Mm-hmm.
on a Chinese company that's building a $100 million manufacturing plant in Prairie View,
Wow.
literally across the tracks from our city hall. So, you know, we just kind of
Hello.
got it going on.
So, are y'all? So, how large is Prairie View? Or y'all are building a lot? Do y'all have a lot of land, or is it landlocked, or is it becoming landlocked? What's the deal on that?
No, we've got a nice amount. The total is 7.2 square miles,
Mm-hmm.
but we still have a lot of areas that are considered ag exempt. So those are open to development. As a matter of fact, maybe 2 hours ago, I was on the phone with a gentleman and his partner, a lady. They're both engineering grads from PV. He's a police officer in Houston, and they have land on the west side of the city, and they're interested in building student housing. The university, along with the Texas A&M system that we're a part of, they want to help the university expand ultimately to, you know, 15, 20,000 students. So all of this nice new housing is needed to accommodate that growth and what have you. The university is one of the, according to Chancellor Sharp, and I'm take his words,
Mm-hmm.
we Prairie View A&M University has the best damn looking campus in the whole A&M system.
I
Now I
bet
haven't
they
been to
do.
all their colleges,
Right.
so I'm gonna take Chancellor Sharp's word for it.
Well, I know I went to Prairie View. My sister graduated from Prairie View, so I
Hmm.
went there then. And then years later, I went back, and it's a whole different city. So I can imagine, if I go back now, that I will be pleasantly surprised to see
Absolutely.
all the development that's going on.
Absolutely. If we want to recruit someone to our campus, all we have to do is have them make the mistake of visiting. When I was doing my black college tours in LA,
Mm-hmm.
I took them to, on average, 13, sometimes 14 campuses, from flying into Houston, starting at a PV, or sometimes we flying into DC or BWI and start at Howard, Morgan State, come down through Hampton, the Atlanta circuit, and sometimes going down to FAMU, down in Tallahassee and what have you, and, you know, Southern Grambling, finishing up at PV. And the majority of the students chose Prairie View over
Really,
all the other college
really,
campuses.
wow. So you're from Panama.
I was
You
born in
born,
Panama.
born, born in
Yeah,
Panama. Grew
did
up
most
in
of my
San
education here.
Antonio. Decided to go to Prairie View, and then ended up being the mayor of Prairie View. Were you a councilman before then too, or you just went
No,
straight into the mayor's position?
I kind of skipped the councilman piece. I
Oh.
did run. I ran for city council and I lost
Mm-hmm.
because I saw the need to change. But as I sat in there and understood more, I said, no, that mayor's seat, that's where the decisions are made. That's where the power is. So
Mm-hmm.
I need to take a look at that. So I ran for mayor the next time and won.
Wow.
And then was blessed to be reelected. Took us through the early beginning stages of COVID, had things set up, had USDA delivering food, 18-wheel food trucks.
Hmm.
Prairie View was so small that the 18-wheel trucks had some problems navigating through there. But we got it done, and over the course, USDA informed me that they had delivered over 25,000 boxes of food to Prairie View during that time when I started it, more or less March, April, until I left office in November.
Wow. So you tuned into the coffee break on TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with a global region. I have the distinct privilege of sitting with former Mayor David Allen from Prairie View, from Prairie View, Texas. He spent a lot of time here in San Antonio, and so we're super excited. He was a graduate, by the way, of Prairie View A&M University, and he's super proud because he bought his T-shirt to show off today.
Absolutely. PV, you know.
It's something that they say it's PV and
That's what the students taught us. They
Right.
said PV, and then the response is you know.
okay. So I had a sister that graduated from there and a niece that graduated from
Your
Prairie
sister's
View.
still in Florida?
Yes, she is. She
Yeah, I
is.
hadn't seen her since one of the homecomings several years ago.
Yeah. So Prairie View, Texas. Who would have thought that, it would be a thriving. It's a small town, but it's got big vision and great opportunities for families and students and people in surrounding cities.
And one of the greatest, not just greatest looking campuses, but the accolades, the recognition. I just came back last week from the Congressional Black Caucus. Prairie View had taken 25 students there.
Wow.
And then we met a group from Texas Southern as well and what have you. And then I met some gentlemen who I have to introduce you to because they've got a substantial online internet platform as well.
Wow.
But Mayor Turner, former Mayor Turner in Houston and I, they interviewed us and what have you. And he's running for Sheila Jackson Lee's seat,
Oh,
which
is
I think
he?
is extremely
Is he? Okay.
appropriate. Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering what he was going to do. In my mind, when somebody gets in a position, I'm thinking they're going to be there forever. I forget about the term limits.
Yes.
And I was saying, what happened to Sylvester? Why is he not the mayor anymore? And somebody said he's term limited. I said, okay, that's right. They do have term limits.
Absolutely.
But I was wondering, he's highly effective. I think he did an awesome job in
Yes.
Houston, but also on the state level too. And so I am glad that he is running again, and he should get that.
Yeah, he's got an extremely good shot at it. I mean,
Right. So is
the
there going to be a
recognition-
special election, or is this the
he's
the
running
general?
in November.
Oh, okay.
And they don't take effect until January 1. So her daughter is actually filling in
Oh,
until
okay.
through December.
Okay.
And then the winner of the election, which we hope will be Sylvester Turner, will
Wow.
kick
So
in
she
January
doesn't.
1.
She doesn't want to. The daughter doesn't want to stay in there, or she can't, or.
No, it's not something evidently or
Right.
however they work that out, but
That's awesome.
I get the impression it wasn't something that she, wanted to do permanently.
Right. So economic development wise in Prairie View, what are some of the future plans that y'all have, or some of the projects that are coming up that you could talk about?
The Livable Center study, that was a study that was commissioned through a grant primarily through Houston Galveston Area Council, and that was from the mayor that followed me, but I was selected by City Council to represent the city with that entity because they're a huge situation with resources, training, all sorts of stuff. So I attended the meetings, and that project, right on that main corner, opposite, across the freeway from the Shell and the
Okay.
Starbucks and what have you, it's a 100-acre development project.
Okay.
So it's to have everything from retail, walkability areas, sitting, having something to drink or just chatting, students studying, things of that nature. So we're looking at bringing a medical facility. If not in there, there's some other gentlemen I'm working with that we're looking at bringing solar, making Prairie View a solar city.
Wow.
Dr. Akajobi and I on campus, we had a $100,000 research grant from the National Science Foundation, and that was to study helping make Prairie View
Wow.
a smart city. When I first heard the term, folks asked me, what does that mean? I said, well,
Right.
I'm not sure, but I like the way it
I
sounds,
know, smart city. I like
Exactly. And the National Science Foundation had us actually fly up to Kansas City to a convention a few years ago and present our proposed project. And about 2 weeks later, I got an email
that. Wow.
from a lady. It was nice meeting you, and you just met a lot of people up at that conference, and most of them were academians from majority institutions and folks in those various fields. And she said that they liked. It was interesting. They said my approach was different and that sort of thing, and they were asking me if I would sit on a grant review panel.
Wow.
So I checked with the professor at the university, and he said, "Oh my God, Mayor, that's an honor. Please do it." So they flew me up to D.C. and I was there. I was the only one of color that was there, and one of the few men. Most of them were academians from predominantly white institutions, and what have you. And I kind of gave them a look from the people they study side. So we, had some interesting discussions. But then the next year, Dr. Akajobi contacted me and asked me, was I going to Denver to the convention? And I said, well, I hadn't thought about it. And he said, the guy's name was David, who was over the operations for NSF. And he said, well, David asked if you were coming. I said, well, I guess I am. So I thought I'd be able to go up and just, have a relaxing getaway weekend or whatever.
Little did you
And
know,
yeah, by the time I got up there, they had me on 2 panels.
wow.
And I'm like, I wasn't even supposed to come. But, again, I enjoyed it. And again, keeping Prairie View's name out there, has been important to me. And I'm blessed to have been able to do that, even with Mayor Turner hosting the African American Mayors Association, some 500 mayors across the U.S. It was the first time they hosted it outside of Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And he asked me and Mayor Ford, who was over Missouri City at the time, to co-host it with him. So I was like little old Prairie View up there with,
Right.
big Houston town. But again, always had a great relationship, and just really respect and appreciate what he does. And I learned a lot from him when I became mayor. I kind of watched some of what he was doing and gave me ideas to do just on a local, smaller level.
Wow. So does Prairie View ever collaborate with projects in Houston, or have you expanded your reach outside of Prairie View?
Absolutely. Our College of Ag and Health Sciences thing, they've got a big program been running in Houston probably the last 2-3 years. And our College of Nursing, one of the best in the United States, very
Next
high
to St.
first time
Philip's? No, I'm just
state bar passage rate.
right.
They're right on Fannin in the heart of the Houston Medical Center, which is incredible. So the presence from our medical and nursing standpoint has been going a very long way. But yes, the university is in and out of Houston on a few different projects, sometimes through cooperative extension and sometimes straight through ag, and the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, I think the largest in the country,
Wow.
if I'm not mistaken. There was an article in like the Houston Magazine, that nice thing that they put out monthly or quarterly,
Right.
and it spoke about our Prairie View trail riders, and it gave the history on when the first 4 or 5 African American men rode into Houston in that Herman
That's
Memorial
crazy,
Center,
right?
and it said, and they weren't welcome.
Wow.
That's a quote from that. That's when they're telling the real story, because you've seen how they say this and they mean that, or they don't tell the whole thing.
Right.
But Prairie View, and when I was mayor, they would ask me to come and speak to kick it off. And the president of Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo always drove that hour or so to be at that meeting, because that's how much respect they have in the history that they've been involved in that. And the College of Ag and what have you, they have booths down there. So yeah, Prairie View's presence and extension into Houston is very good and growing.
Wow. So this is my final question, I think. So what was your what project while you were mayor did you implement that you're most proud of?
We we were short staffed, and I know in wanting to grow the city, employees, the police department, getting new vehicles. I mean, I knew that a lot of things we needed took money, and that's when I learned that property tax situation, and that was a lot of cities, main funding. So that's when I went and I knew the institution needed more student housing because it was on the news when I lived in Los Angeles
Wow.
that Prairie didn't have enough housing, so
Really?
much that it was on the news.
Wow.
So bringing the apartments in to help with the student housing shortfall, as well as those properties are some of the largest tax payers because they're just big areas to do all those student apartments. Um, those are some of the things that I'm most proud of. Of course, I love the cricket complex. If you go to, if you Google Prairie View Cricket Complex, a lot of wonderful Houston Business Journal, Houston Chronicle, and other articles come up. So it's really been just helping to kickstart the growth of the city that I'm the most proud of. And with that continuing on with these other things now, because it's like anything else, you know, everybody wants to get on a moving train, but nobody wants to push.
Right. The little
Well,
red hen
that
syndrome.
train has left the station, and Prairie View will never be the same no matter what. More people are coming, looking. We're in the fastest growing county, Waller County in Texas,
Really?
and Houston is coming our way. Harris County is 2 miles from our city limits. So, and
That's it?
I found that out. Harris County surrounds the city of Waller. Half of the city of Waller, next door to us, between us and Houston, is in Harris County. And I researched, I found that took place, I believe it was 1967. Someone had forethought and vision that far back in Houston to stretch their county borders out that far. But it's definitely benefiting us. We're blessed to be in that corridor. The Highway 36A project, I used to sit on the board of that. That connects Texas to the Panama Canal, which
Really?
makes me ecstatic. They
It's
we
just completely
just
connected
just
by
a
divine intervention.
just a few years ago they finished the expansion,
Wow.
so the super tankers could go through. It's
Hmm.
maybe a half mile over from the regular Miraflores locks. I visited them 2 weeks ago when I was down there, and they're dredging in the port of Freeport, a project you would like to be aware of, and I can send you some initial information on it
Okay.
to accommodate the super tankers. They have to dredge some 55 feet, and the port of Houston. Not only would it take, I guess, too much because you know how land goes out like that, so it'd be a lot of digging to accommodate it, but they've got congressional approval to do that in the Port of Freeport. And I used to sit on that with one of the Fort Bend County commissioners and the former ambassador of Panama to the United States, Ambassador Sosa. We've got a good relationship. He likes to tell people we were born in the same hospital, Santo Thomas in
Oh.
Panama. But that project and the revenue, because they're hoping to pull from the trillions of dollars that come through New York Harbor, Port of Los Angeles, Long Beach, up through Texas to bring products up through Texas,
Really?
Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas, all that, the mid states. But it's in the serious trillions of dollars, and folks like us need to know more about that. It's Highway 36A as an Apple. You Google it, a lot of great information will come up, and
Wow.
it's happening as we sit here.
So, what kind of company would get a project like that, or would be able to execute a project like that?
Well, that takes congressional stuff.
Mm.
So it's not like an individual company. And there
Mm-hmm.
were several of us that sat on this board,
Mm-hmm.
through representing some of the cities, counties, because originally, and I've got that map, I have to send it to you because I like that map. It showed that it was coming up through Freeport
That's
to
close.
James Muse Parkway in Prairie View.
Mm-hmm.
So that got me like excited and turned on.
Wow.
It may not come through directly there, but there's still going to be a lot of business opportunities along the way, everything from construction to trucking to, I mean, the jobs are going to be incredible, but even shipping goods, because
That's the
Panama is
main thing,
considered
right?
the crossroads of the world. Everything, one way or another, comes through that canal. So being able to bring goods up through there and the super tankers, because, like, let's say a normal tanker might hold 300 of the big shipping cargo things,
Mm-hmm.
a super tanker might hold 3,000. So it
Wow.
costs a lot less to ship the goods
Mm-hmm.
on a super tanker. So even people who are into import export and what have you, but again, the first thing I like is be aware. And then, as you say, what type of entities can get involved? Well, if you're not aware,
You
you
can't
can't
get
get
involved,
involved. If
right?
you are aware, you might be in this industry, but you see where, well, maybe I need to diversify and expand into that one or
Mm-hmm.
close this one because I like what that can do. But again, make it happen. And again, that's a project we can do a segment on because so many people around the country can benefit and get involved with that. They've cleared the land, bought up a lot of stuff around the harbor in Freeport.
Mm-hmm.
But right outside of that is what? It's going to go through the roof too. So you might want to invest in rental property or something because it's coming. It's
Wow.
not a possibility. It's got a congressional approval and it's got more than one congressional approval to go forward with this
Wow.
project.
And it's 36A, you said?
Highway 36A.
Oh, okay. And it'll tell you all about the project.
It'll tell you a lot. And what it doesn't tell you, just let me know.
Okay.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, well, this has been a great conversation, but we can, like you said, have a segment to kind of talk about it and dissect it and kind of explain exactly what the opportunities might be.
Exactly. Like you say, the economic development just means opportunities. We see these things happening. Most of the time, we don't know until somebody's digging and a building goes up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we need to get away from that because now some of us are at the table and we need to talk about it.
Wow. Wow. Well, this has been a great, great, great conversation. I know that the first time you were interviewed by TAN TV was with 300 Voices in 300 Days,
Mm-hmm.
and you've just really exploded and done phenomenal things since then.
Thank you.
And so we're super excited that you took the time out of your busy schedule to come over and chat with me for a little bit on the coffee break so that we can learn more about, what you do and what the possibilities are for, other African Americans that are looking
Sure.
to, to be.
Well, and I noticed you mentioned doing a segment with various elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things on job opportunities we need to talk about
Okay.
because the city manager thing that folks are talking to me about because of what I did as mayor and what have you,
Mm-hmm.
those jobs start at 6 figures.
Wow.
Most people don't even know those jobs exist. I didn't know, even while I was mayor,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a certain form of government. But since so many of our folks live in, I'll just say suburbia,
Mm-hmm.
those small towns
Yep.
all have, for the most part, these positions or the economic development executive director. Those things pay 65, 75 on up. So, again, the economic opportunities in taking a look at these cities, it's not something that came in any of my college classes. I
Mm-hmm.
went to Prairie View on an engineering scholarship. I switched to business, and none of this ever crossed my radar. And I will say, I never, ever thought once of being an elected official or mayor of anything.
Wow.
But in that small environment where you can get in, roll your sleeves up, learn what's going on, get involved, and leading to some very serious career opportunities, like the gentleman that you had in here the other day who was a city manager in multiple cities. There's a guy, a brother, was a
Wow.
city manager up in Dallas. He just got the job in Austin a few months ago. City manager.
Oh, he was telling me about the guy in Austin.
It's like $462,000 a year.
Wow.
That's more than the president makes.
Wow.
Okay, so again, opportunities that a lot of people aren't aware of, but can qualify for while we may be volunteering on the city council, which is not a bad thing because they make decisions that affect you wherever you live. They make decisions, and it can cost you not to know what's going on.
Wow. So that's why I wanted to just give exposure and shine the spotlight on, public officials that are African American, city leaders that are African Americans. Like we interviewed the Mayor Kirby, the city manager for Converse, the assistant city administrator, and she's over the economic development department in Selma.
Absolutely.
The you, and so we're just looking forward to interviewing people across Texas to kind of let people know, that you have influence and that you're making decisions on some of these major projects that are happening across Texas. Well, really across the country.
Absolutely.
Starting with Texas.
No, it's a great network, and I met with some of the people in D.C. and Congressman Benny Thompson, and one of the people he knows is someone I'm in touch with. I haven't even met her, but we're working on grants. Now we're working on a project over in Africa with carbon credits, and another group is looking to fly me over to Ethiopia because of the college education things that I'm trying to do in Panama, as well as when I went to Vietnam. And we're still working on the Vietnamese orchid growing project in Prairie View with the professor at the university in the College of Ag, Dr. Aruna, and his contacts over in Vietnam that I was blessed to go over and visit with, and had them come over, and they wrote a letter of intent to invest $1 million to start in building the greenhouses and what was needed to grow orchids in little old Prairie View.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's not gone. I may have to go back to Vietnam to pick up on it, but again, we just trying to keep things going and doing everything we can. Prairie View did a lot for me, and subsequently for my family. Two of my brothers went to Prairie View after I did, the oldest and the second to the youngest, and as a result of my getting a 4-year degree, after that, 4 of my siblings, 3 older and 1 younger, receive one. So what each of us does can make a difference, and you never know in what manner it's going to affect even your own family.
Wow. And then your name precedes you once you start getting involved, then people start coming to you.
Yes, you did. Thank you. I appreciate it. Just a pleasure to be here. I love what TAN is about, and I still want to do what I can to assist you with more of the marketing of getting TAN out there. And we're going to start with connecting you with these 2 brothers I met. I got a text from one of them yesterday about us getting together and talking about doing some things.
Okay. And maybe, y'all can do a panel discussion or a round table to kind of bounce things around and still educate the viewing audience about it.
Absolutely. It'll be a pleasure.
Okay. Well, thank you. You've been tuned into TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with the global reach. And we've been here with the former mayor, now city council person, and Mayor Pro Tem for Prairie View, Texas. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. PV.
I know.